I was initiated when I was 3 months in the belly of my mother. My mother reported that she was pregnant and was sleeping when she saw a frog on the bed where she was sleeping. This happened while we were living in Sierra Leone. When I was initiated by my grandmother, she gave me a coat, like every other witch, to say I am to replace her. She gave me a demon that was a strong man. The demon was my guardian and his purpose was to watch over me so that I will not give up witchcraft. She put in my body a snake that had 3 heads. The 3 heads represented her spirit, the strong man, and my spirit. I received the throne of witchcraft and the eyes of witchcraft. On that day she built an altar in my heart, where she had deposited all her power. This is because she was dying, and we made a covenant and built an altar in my heart. I was still in the womb of my mother when I began to travel to attend witchcraft meeting, where my grandmother was ruling. Many are the victim of witchcraft. Whenever people's fate was decided, we were supposed to put on them the coat of condemnation. Many are walking around with witchcraft coat on them. There are POP with coat of rejection, coat of bad smell that cause people to distance themselves from them, and people would not bear you. There is also coat of failure, coat of sickness that defy medication. There are also witchcraft veil that cause the society not to see you. Where you were supposed to be remarkable and noticed, people will ignore you because you have veil. There are also people that have witchcraft stamp on their forehead, and they are women whose face are turned to that of an old person so that no man will be interested in them. I was wicked in the spirit but kind in the physical. There are witches that are really kind and generous. This is in order to hide their wicked nature. In the meantime, my mother was a Christian serving God with zeal. Grandmom and I were on a mission to destroy her. My grandmom has tried hard to kill my mother but she failed, thus she entrusted me the task of killing her. Since I was unable to kill her, I decided to ruin my mother's life and I confiscated all her blessing. In Africa, when a witch is trying to reach you and can't, he will try to initiate the child, that will become a door for him to enter your house and life. The blood link and connection make it easy to reach you. Grandmother that initiated me joined me in the battle against of my mother, and my mother condition deteriorated because of open door. We managed to capture and trap her soul inside a white coffin. My mother was doing all the document in secret in order to travel to Europe. She refused to tell everybody including me in order to avoid opposition from witches, but the intelligence system of witches was aware of whatever she was doing, and the moment I was informed I blocked her plan to travel. The believer must learn to engage and to exercise authority over the enemy, by breaking the power of blockade resulting from witchcraft. On the day she was to travel, I was laughing at her, because we had blocked the way. She was supposed to get a visa at the airport, but she did not know that the visa was already blocked in the night during the gathering of witches. When she slept at night, there was conspiracy and plot against her life. What was supposed to happen to her life throughout the day was planned. What happened with witches is that the moment they learn that you are traveling and you're gonna get money, immediately they passed the information to the spirit world. The purpose of witchcraft is to block people life and people blessing, and they would block the impending blessing even before it come in your hand. That's how I practice black magic that people call witchcraft. And one day I shot my big sister with ammunition in order to kill her, and she collapsed on the ground, and people rushed in panic and surrounded her to check what was wrong. To my surprise, she was not dead, probably because of my mother's prayers, and this mission was a failure. I was fighting my own mother. Every time I heard that she would have money, I would block the money. My mother was going to church and she was baptized in the water and was serving God in many ways. She was a giver and supported God work and was receiving men of God at home and cooking for them. She really loved God. Since she was my target, I managed to install camera of surveillance at home. At some point she called God's servant that consecrated the house with oil. In spite of consecrating the house in 2 occasions, thanks to my surveillance, I knew whatever she was planning and was sending her out of witchcraft, to devour what belonged to her finance. One of the servants of God that came to consecrate our house was a lady messenger, who consecrated the place with the anointed of oil. The big issue and open door that gave me an advantage was that this lady messenger had painted face, and the adornment of the world like lipstick, that gave me legality. That is why despite the consecration of the house I was able to practice witchcraft inside the house. Even my mother, that was a dedicated servant of God and a giver, was attached to the accessories of Jezebel. She loved God and sang in the church, but the door was opened in the spiritual world because of the items of ladies of the sea. My mother was wearing hair attachment, lady pants, and she was weaving hair. These items that are the property of ladies of the enemy made her vulnerable and defenseless. The house was opened and I was playing with the house. Even if my mother was a committed believer and the house was turned to cell of prayer, she was keeping items that are foreign God, things that are portal of the spirit world. The consecration of the house with oil and prayer was rendered void and powerless because of the property of the enemy in the house. She failed to separate from the world and did not know the doctrine of holiness of the body. We must be aware of the doors that allow the opponent to enter. I was working inside the church attacking the saint and binding them. Churches must walk in holiness, even the holiness of the body, otherwise the enemy would enter and come out whenever he want. There was no love in that church. Whenever a good thing happened to a brother, there was pain in the heart of many. They were jealous. Brothers wonder why not them. There was competition between servant. Everyone wanted to demonstrate that they have more knowledge and were more anointed than the other. There were faction, camps and group in the church. One group supported one pastor and the other camp supported another pastor. There was backstabbing, murmuring. The church was a mess. As a result, the Lord withdrew his presence, for he is not a God of disorder. That's how witchcraft entered the church. The Lord was waiting for them to repent and change. For the Lord is a God of peace, for he said, seek peace with all and holiness, without which no one will see the Lord. Happy are those who create peace, they will be called children of God. Whenever there is division and faction in the church, the presence of the Lord is not there, and the witch enter. I was sent to shut down this church. One day I came and threw in the middle of the church my sanitary pad that had blood. This action was in order to cover and veil the church, so that people will not see this church. It's like it not there. Even if people pray in that church, there was no new member coming from that day, because 2 demons dressed in red were deployed and were standing before the church. They had horn and claws. They were stopping people from coming to church. There are churches defeated by witches. Thus I was bewitching and binding the saint because of enmity in the church. I was a missionary of darkness sent to churches to cause chaos. I was supposed to discourage the leader so that she will give up, because she had the truth. I was observing her behavior, which is the first step, in order to determine her walk and standing with God. She had a good standard, but she had the issue of anger. I mean, she was going to bed with anger. This is dangerous. Whenever she was arguing with people, she was failing to confess and to seek peace and was going to bed with anger, leaving the door wide open. Because of the door of anger, we dressed her with a witchcraft mantle of rejection. As a result, she could not get along with people who were supposed to help her, and those who had promised her money turned their back on her just like that because of witchcraft mantle. When she noticed problems escalating in her life, she called my mother and got together at our house for prayer. I saw the bed where she was sleeping. Wherever people sleep on the bed, their soul is there. Since her soul was on that bed, I decided to capture it. Normally there should have been fire where she sleep, but there was nothing. When I was about to capture her soul to take her to spiritual prison, the angels defenders that guards her life manifested and opposed me. I told them, you are opposing me, but the word of the Lord say, don't go to bed angry. Don't give the devil that kind of foothold in your life. But this servant of God argue with people and she goes to bed with anger. She has opened the door and we have legality. That's when the angels of the Lord who keep her withdrew slowly and went away. At that moment I captured her soul and took it to the world of witchcraft, where I presented the captive soul to the hierarchy. I told them, this is the soul you had asked me to capture. My mission is fulfilled. That's when the life of this servant was open to demon to do whatever they wanted. We had access in her life. She came under our control, manipulation and domination. She continued to hear the voice of God, and she thought it is the Lord that was speaking to her. She was saying, the Lord is showing me this and that, but in truth it was religious demons using her. She did not know. We had access to her heart that we controlled and caused her to love all the witches in the church, and she became close to us. Since she always examined her walk with the Lord, she began to notice that something was not right. As a result, she withdrew in the bush to seek the face of God, because she was trying hard to please the Lord, and when she was praying in the bush the Lord spoke to her and told her, "What you are experiencing is because you have opened the door of anger. The witches in the church have access in your life. Whatever you are enduring is the action and conspiracy of witches." That's when this servant called me. She said, "The Lord has revealed to me that you are among the witches of the church that are fighting me." This lady spoke in detail about what was hidden and she exposed my witchcraft. I thought there is no need to deny, and I confessed that I was fighting her. I began to talk with her on WhatsApp confessing my sins. While I was talking to her I noticed the photo of her WhatsApp profile, where she had weaved her hair and has adorned herself. Because of the way she was on the picture of her profile in WhatsApp, I enter her house through the picture. The confession ended, and few minutes later, she called on the phone and asked me, "What are you doing in my house? What have you come to do?" She told my mother, "Your daughter is coming to attack me at night even though I want to help her." She was doing 40 days of fasting and prayer in the bush, and every day at dawn she was praying. She was trying to please God, but the mistake was the failure to remove anger and to confess her sin. She should have been more vigilant and quicker to realize that when in dispute and anger she was to renounce quickly before the Lord, instead of sleeping in that condition. Sins are doors for the enemy. I had an access to her life because of braiding her hair, yet the Bible say no braided hair. It is an open door.